Hello, everyone. We're doing this today, like a real YouTuber. I hope real YouTubers are still doing this, so that'd be quite embarrassing otherwise, wouldn't it? If this came out and I was the only one, and everyone were laughing at me. Think of my good reputation. Anyway, um, today we're going to go through all the classes in Final Fantasy V. We're going to put them on a tier list. These are the tiers. Um, I just, me and Sam, we played through the first ever Fiesta either of us had ever done recently, and Fiesta, of course, being a seasonal event where you play through Final Fantasy V with 4 randomly picked jobs. Can be any one of these except the fake one who's not real. Just ignore this guy. He's the Necromancer. He doesn't exist within the game. You can't play as him. I'm doing the thing again where I just start talking and forget what the point was because I've switched onto 3 other points before the end. Anyway, there's a lot of resources for this game online that are bad. And I feel like there's a growing number of people realizing that Final Fantasy V is actually a really good game and that you should play it. So I figured I could try and put something out to help with the amount of bad. Um, it was our first Fiesta, so you might doubt my experience, and that's fair. But every now and then I just have like a mega Final Fantasy V period where I try and learn everything and do everything. Um, and then I stop for like a few years and forget everything that I'd learned. So while I'm still on, we're going to make a tier list, and then hopefully that information will sink into the common knowledge. So there you go. Anyway, here's the tiers. Broken is a class that is absolutely ridiculous and just trashes the game. Wizard is separate from not a wizard in that wizards are normally better than non-wizards. So I figured we'd promote the wizard supremacy and just give them their own space away from the non-wizards. Then we got good classes. These are fine. They do what they're supposed to do. Should have probably said these two are incredibly good tiers. Good is just normal good. Bad is bad. Bad doesn't do a lot of anything. Then we have this tier. That's fairly self-explanatory. I wonder who goes here. And fake is just for necromancer. So this is the remaining 25 classes that actually exist within the game that you can play as, including Freelancer. This does include the advanced classes, who I've never played with, but I've learned some stuff. I've watched some stuff. I can relate to you what I've heard, and hopefully I wasn't lied to or horribly misinformed. Anyway, let's go. I think that's enough preamble. This is bad. Bad has trash stats. He can use haps, which are trash weapons. And then what's he got? He can hide, which is garbage, a useless ability that makes him leave the fight for a while and then come back later. You can dodge attacks doing it, but you can't do anything else. And he also learns Sing, which is incredible. It's one of the best abilities in the game. So he goes straight into not a wizard tier, I think. You could argue that Bad's a wizard, but I disagree. I don't think he's quite in this tier. There's a measure of quality between these two and also being a wizard. But so Bad, when you first get him, he can use, what does he get? Can't remember the names. Yeah, one of them's okay. He has a song that casts stop on all enemies, and a song that confuses all enemies. You would be surprised what stop will work on. Stop is a status effect that completely stops an enemy from doing anything for a while. Bad stop lasts a while. Confusing all the enemies makes them turn around and punch each other. That's fine too. Later on, he gets, so he starts off with just that basically. His attacks are crap. His stats are rubbish. He can only use haps and knives, I think, and he's bad. Haps are just bad. The last hap in the game can do damage against undead and dragons. No, just dragons. One or the other. I don't know. But like all his other haps just deal percentage-based damage, but don't work on heavy enemies. And it's not a high percentage damage, so anything you'd want to use them on, it doesn't affect. They can do it from the back row, but doing nothing from the back row isn't particularly exciting. The songs work fine from the back row. Yeah, it's when you hit World 3 and you pick up well, you get Requiem, which means infinite free grinding in the underground trench because you can shout at all the zombies and make them die. You also start getting the stat boosting moves, which are absolutely broken. The speed song, I can't remember what any of them are called. I've been playing SNES a lot. Oh, by the way, there's a lot of versions of this game. I only know about the Game Boy and SNES versions. I don't know nothing about the iOS version. It looks crap. Uh, I had to go through a couple of tier lists to find one that wasn't using the iOS sprites. I didn't know. I didn't know what any of them were. They all look so weird over there. But anyway, yeah, these songs are even better on the iOS version over here because he can buff level to 255 with his level buffing song, which he also gets, of course. It makes you play a lot of pianos. You gotta go out of your way to find a lot of them, but it's worth doing. So speed song is nuts. It's way better than haste after he's had it up for a while, and it stacks with haste, so you can eventually get to the point where the enemy are playing a turn-based game and you are not. You are just constantly hitting them. Um, Level buffing is always broken. You could argue it just goes down to good, but in certain situations, I think you could argue that it goes up to wizard tier as well. For example, bad just wins against Neo X Death. You just buff up in the first form, and his second form doesn't get to hit you. It's ridiculous. So yeah, the stat boosting and the level boosting just make him absolutely nuts. He does stop doing those if he gets hit. So if you can have like a knight cover him or something, that helps him out. Or you can just keep starting the song again, and you'll still be getting the buff every tick. You know, it doesn't go away. The buff he's done doesn't go away when he gets hit. He just stops increasing it further. Anyway, next class, it's Beastmaster. Controversial potentially. No, it's not. I think everyone knows Beastmaster's good, but no one can be bothered looking at the guides to find out what the best things to catch are. So, Beastmaster's skills, he gets calm. Don't even look at it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. That's just a word that goes in his ability list. You don't ever click that button. He learns control, which is not. Control lets you. It's like confusing an enemy, except you can pick what they do and what they use it on. You just get to control them on your turn. Thus the name, I suppose. It's for one thing, it makes grinding very easy. um, you can grind prototypes, which have a special move they'll never use on you called self-destructs. So you can just make them kill themselves and generate huge amounts of experience. The chance of it working isn't great, but in World 2, you get a Hypno Crown, which boosts it very high. You can also. The third skill he gets is Capture. Lets you capture an enemy who's on really low health. You can get another item for that. That means they don't have to be on. I think they have to be on less than half rather than like less than an eighth or something ridiculous. If you've got. So catch is the one you need to have looked at a guide to be able to use well. There's a lot of enemies that are completely useless to catch and release, and there's some more that are completely broken. Like just throw a thing and it hits all enemies for quad nines. So, you know, even then, I don't think he belongs in this tier, even if you know exactly what you're doing. Because he doesn't. He only gets one shot with it, and then it's gone, and he's just a beastmaster again. Oh, also, he is. This class uses whips, which only they can use. They're okay. They tend to have some kind of effect associated with them, like you hit a guy and then he gets struck by lightning. Tragic how it happens. even the regular whip stuns magical beasts, which is pretty handy. We're gonna say Beastmaster wins against Gorilla for free, but you can't actually get Beastmaster by then. Only a Freelancer can do that. But you know, it's the Beastmaster were thinking about it. It just hadn't got there yet. Anyway, Berserker, obviously. So possibly the worst class in the game, Berserker. I don't think that's a controversial statement. Berserker, you can't control him. He just does what he feels like, which is attack. He'll attack an enemy at complete random. On the SNES version of the game, especially, he can even attack enemies that aren't there, and he'll do that a lot. Just I know, like it's sorry, yeah. Berserkers tend to. There's certain boss fights where you just want to kill the Berserker to continue because they cause more trouble than they're worth. If the enemy's going to do a serious counter, just getting rid of the Berserker is fine. Like the damage is fine, but even then, the damage isn't like exceptional. Despite the fact that it completely takes up one of your slots with a character you can't use, they'll just do whatever they feel like. For an enemy big attack hits all your team, wipes three characters out, and the only one left is a Berserker, you have lost that fight because the Berserker's is just going to keep swinging. You might even target someone who's not there. That's mostly a thing on the SNES version and mostly in fights that do kind of weird mechanical things. On the Game Boy one, there's a lot less chance of him doing that. On the iOS version, he always attacks the first enemy in the list, which is generally handy because he'll generally attack something on the front row. Another thing Berserker likes to do is hit someone who's on the back row so they take half damage. So his mediocre damage is halved. Um, it does mean that certain bosses on the iOS version can't be beaten at all by an all Berserker team. I'm not sure if it's just Necrophobe, but you can't beat Necrophobe with. Well, maybe if you got very lucky with Gaia Hammer procs, but I don't know. I'm sure someone's done it. There's crazy people out there, but they won't ever target the last couple of barriers, so you won't be able to directly beat Necrophobe. Anyway, Berserkers use axes. They can also use knives, which you will probably want to swap them to at some points because you don't. There's not a lot of axes in the game compared to other weapons, so they'll frequently be using just a lower tier of weapon than everyone else. Again, they're supposed to be dishing out big, huge hits, and the downside is you can't control them. But in fact, they're not even dishing out that big a hit. The thing is, Berserker is better than people think because, well, he gets heavy armor and he can have shields, so that's always nice. He has a lot of health. He can just stand up there and tank. Again, you don't want him to be the only one left because that does mean you lose the fight, but he's pretty good at taking hits. But mainly, there's weird places where having a Berserker is really useful. Um, there's points where like you've just found a new Berserker weapon, and then there's a boss, and now the Berserker is actually doing what he's supposed to, and he's worth keeping around. There's also points where there's like you can use the Death Sickle, and it's absolutely worth picking up the Death Sickle if you've got Berserker. There's a few bosses that are immune to death, you know. Um, the crystals is obviously the main one. A good strat for beating the crystals is you get something to cast mini on the Berserker, and then you have him just hit the crystals with the Death Sickle, and just go make a sandwich or something while he gets to work mining his way through the crystals. There's there's just certain points, and also there's no point not using the Death Sickle because you don't get a bloody new axe for ages after you you find that. Um, yeah, so a lot of the time he's relying on low odds hit chances to get a death proc, but he's not doing much else, so you might as well. But yeah, he's one of the worst classes in the game, but it's not like all hope is lost if you roll Berserker. He's got a couple of things that he can do that you might not think of. On the SNES version, it can actually do damage because there's a bug that lets him underflow his magic stat. And for some reason, all of Berserker's best weapons rely on his magic stat. Don't know why they made that decision in designing the game, in designing this angry boy, but there it is. So he can hit really high damage with a Gaia hammer or a rune axe. Yeah, the legendary axe. Otherwise, on Game Boy Advance they fixed that, and he's nowhere near us. I mean, on the SNES version, he will target enemies that aren't there during the Neo X death fight though as well. So swings and roundabouts in it. Anyway, we got first wizard. This is Black Mage. Black Mage explodes people. He does all of the world's damage. He's just very good. He's like the first wizard you get, the first like damage dealing wizard you get. You might expect to get to a point where you're using one of the later classes instead of Black Mage, but there's no class that does Black Mage stuff as good as Black Mage does. Um, he learns a bunch of status effects, which again, status effects are good in this game. Well, if you can find out like a boss is weak to status effects or what status effect they're weak to, you know, Black Mage has probably got access to it. He can petrify some bosses. He can instant death some bosses. And when he can't do any of that, he can hit them for like 4,000 damage around with massive spells. Maybe that's a lot. I don't know. In Fiesta, you're generally finishing the game between like level in the late 20s to mid 30s. Well, it can be higher than that if you didn't roll Black Mage. But even at low levels, he's just hitting like a truck. He always does tons of damage. You want to have boosted. Obviously, you want to use the right staff that boosts the spell he's using. There's not many things that there's not many points in the game where not fire, ice, or lightning will do the job that you want it to do. Um, he learns all of them. He can boost all of them to do 1.5 times damage. He has an incredibly good magic stat. If you have another wizard, you can put their skill on him, and then he has an even better magic stat. He's reliant on MP, but he doesn't use crazy amounts of it, like Summoner does, like Time Mage can do. He's genuinely one of the best classes in the game. He just blows up the enemies. There's not a lot to him, but he just blows them up, and then they're dead. And what are they going to do? Are they going to complain that he didn't do it in a cool enough way? They're dead. They're ash now. Also, yeah, obviously, Black Mage can break rods, which makes the early game incredibly easy. Uh, yeah, anyone who can break rods has a pretty good early game. Black Mage can break rods. Anyway, here's Blue Mage. Blue Mage is a wizard, but he's a very good wizard. He's a very special kind of wizard. Blue Mage is, if someone's doing, well, people have done like one character runs with basically every job, but if you want to do that and not go insane, you probably want to pick Blue Mage. He's the guy who can beat the game all on his own. Blue Mage learns spells from being hit by enemy monsters using those spells. He has to survive the fight to get the ability. Actually, does it? I can't remember. I think he does. That might be Final Fantasy VII. I might be thinking of the wrong game. Maybe he can be dead and still learn the spells. Who knows? Anyway, Blue Mage is ridiculous. You probably will want a guide to work out where to get all his spells. But he has some absolutely nuts things. He can bloody protect, shell, and reflect all your team at once. That's a bit much, some might say. He can he's got arrow for a nice, easily boosted damage spell that isn't resisted by a lot of enemies. But mostly, he learns how to do maths. He gets a spell called Level 5 Death that if the enemy level is a multiple of 5, they will die. Even if they're immune to death, even if they're a boss, they will just die. And he also learns a couple of different spells that can manipulate the enemy level to make it a multiple of 5, so he can kill them with level 5 death. And that's basically what you do with Blue Mage. You got a guide to work out where to get the spells. You get another one to work out what level the enemies are, and then you make the level that they are a multiple of 5, and then you blow them up. I'm not sure if it's on all the versions, but on the Game Boy Advance version, there is a trick you can do. It gets a spell called Level 2 Old, which again inflicts the old status effect on enemies that have levels that have levels that are a multiple of 2. I think these hit your team as well. Did they hit your team as well? I can't remember. I haven't used a Blue Mage in ages. That'd be weird if they did. No, they don't. What am I talking about? Maybe they do. I'm sorry, folks. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, Blue Mage. Yeah, you can level 2 old things. This is the actual information. Skip the parts where I'm just talking to myself. If he does level 2 old on a guy, they will. The old status effect reduces your level by 1 every tick. If you do that on a guy and then you click to run away, only obviously this works on bosses, the game will tell you that you can't escape once every tick, so you can count their level down until you can level 5 death them. That might be version specific to the GBA. I'm not sure. Mess around with it. Have a good time. You got Blue Mage. You've won the game already. This is Cannoneer. I haven't ever used Cannoneer, but I've heard he's Chemist, but with a gun. Apparently slightly worse than Chemist. If you're slightly worse than Chemist, you're probably still one of the best classes in the game. Because he is Chemist. He's nuts. Chemist, just to give him again, you probably need a guide, but I'd say, I mean, you do need to work out the combinations, but a lot of them are just really easy to do and really broken. So Chemist, he just does what he wants. I don't even know what to say. He has so many different things he can do that are broken. He can double your max health, and that's not even one of his best ones. He can revive people with full health and MP just whenever he feels like. He can he has a drain attack that just does insane damage and just heals him at full health because it's a drain attack. And obviously with the Chemist and with Blue Mage, there's no reason you can't just put their ability on your entire team. Because I mean, some Blue Magic spells care about your stats, but a lot don't. You can also use Goblin Punch to make Excalibur into an actual Excalibur. If you put it on a class who uses swords. So they even have skills that work better on other Blue Mages can use swords. But you know what I mean. You probably don't know what I mean. Chemists, there's no class in they don't care about stats. There's no class in the game that couldn't have mix as a second ability and not be broken. Except Berserker, obviously, because he can't use any other abilities. He can only attack. But yeah, Chemist is ridiculous. These aren't in any order. I assume Cannoneer is worse than these. Chemist's probably the best. Maybe they are in order. Anyway, we got Dancer. Dancer's good. Dancer is very frail. I think they're the most frail class in the game. They can't wear the good armor, can't carry shields. They have really low max health, which is a problem. You don't want to worry too much about tanking, really, because it's not that kind of game. You want to kill the enemies before they kill you more than you want to try and stall them out. I like that his trousers are invisible in this picture. Um, sorry. Anyway, the yeah, you don't want to worry too much about like health and tanking and stuff, but when you have low enough health that you're going to get one shot by everything, that's when you run into a problem. And some classes are pretty good at not getting one shot. Dancer is not one of them. Dancer will generally get one shot by things that your mages won't get one shot by, because Dancer has to be in the front row to use sword dance. The main ability is Dance, which it's a 1 in 4 chance to either be a HP draining attack, which is generally pretty bad, and if they use it on undead, they'll hurt themselves and heal the undead. So they'll do that just to annoy you if you forget that an enemy's undead. They have an MP draining ability, which can come in really handy actually. They have a they can confuse one enemy, which is you don't want to see it. It's fine, but you don't want to see it. It don't work on a lot of things. I meant to. I just forget. I'm talking. I meant to get a drink before I started, but I got my drink, drank all of it, and then started talking. So there may be a break in the middle of this somewhere. Yeah, anyway, Dance's fourth ability is Swords Dance. Swords Dance just hits like a truck. It does absurd amounts of damage, makes Berserker envious. Problem is, you don't get to pick which one they do, they just do one. The same thing will happen if you give a dancing dagger to someone. They just pick one of the four dances at random. Dancers can get an ability, well, they can get a few items that change the chance of their dance they use. It completely just removes tempting tango if you give them one, and it puts that 25% on swords dance. So they'll do that half the time on one of the two drains, the other half of the time. They're not. They're probably one of the weaker good classes, but if you happen to roll a team that has a really hard time doing damage, you'll be very thankful to have dancers around. They can only use knives, I think, as well, so they're not great at attacking, but you know, give them that chicken knife. Well, that makes them even more unreliable. But give them what's the other one? No, don't give them a dancing dagger. They can already do that. Dancers, they do damage. They don't take damage very well, and you can't really do a lot to defend them because they kind of have to be in the front row to hit the enemy. And there's no there's not a lot of defensive abilities in this game. But Dancer, that's what he does. Dragoon, he's bad. Dragoon doesn't really do anything. He has a lot of armor, he has a lot of health, he has a shield. These are all good qualities of his, but he doesn't do anything. He just kind of has those properties. He's not as bad as Berserker. He's not really bad. He's very boring, and he doesn't do any real damage. His unique ability is jump, which he hops off the top of the screen. If enemies attack him, it misses, and then he comes back down on the head a little bit later. Which is you can hop over like an Alma guest if you don't like if you see it coming. With good timing, you can actually hop over a lot of moves. There's actually one enemy in the game. There's one of the prototype spiders in the pyramid have a special move that only hits jumping dragoons, and they'll only use if you have a dragoon jump at them, which I didn't know until recently. I was watching someone play a Fiesta who'd managed to get dragoon, berserker, and the other really bad class all in the same run. You'll see that one. It's not the one coming up who's bad. But sorry, someone just made a strange noise at me from outside. What was I saying? Yeah, dragoons. They're good at tanking. They're good at being the last one alive after a big attack wipes everyone else. To use a phoenix down, but you know they don't really do much else. They're good at using phoenix downs. Good at high potions. They're not good at hitting enemies. They're the only class in the game that use lances. The lances are fine. There's one that hurts dragons, I think. Probably. I'm sure that's great. Anyway, Freelancer. He's better than Dragoon. Freelancer's good. Freelancer has the worst stats of anything in the game. Everything else's stats are take Freelancer as a base and then increase things. But Freelancer is Freelancer and does not have anything increased. Freelancer can equip any item in the game though. So like before you start, you can equip anything. You can equip the good armor. You can have heavy armor of a dragoon, but also with a ribbon from a dancer, which I should have mentioned. Dancers can equip ribbons, which make them immune to any status effect. They're the best headgear in the game. And freelancers can use them, just dancers and freelancers, and anyone with equip ribbon. That's one of the skills. Um, I'm really scattershot today. I mean, this is fairly normal. But anyway, freelancer. So you probably end up with a Freelancer start if you're playing a Chaos run, because you get classes completely randomly assigned, and the odds of you getting one off the Wind Crystal are less than half. Freelancers actually have a really good start. You can use the whip to beat Garula for free. It's not even hard. You can smash rods at things. They can have rods, even though he's not a wizard. He can smash a rod. So you beat Liquid Flame for free. It gets a bit tricky. It starts to get tricky as you go on. Especially because like things that just hit you will hit him very hard, and he'll be sad. I mean, you do obviously want normal classes, but having a Freelancer stat is absolutely fine. Um, Later on in a run, Freelancers can get good because any classes you've mastered give their stats to Freelancer, which is nice. You can end up with, I mean, if you're playing not Fiesta, Freelancer's the best class in the game. In the end game, you eventually get to the point where you've just mastered everything else. Freelancer can also have 2 other abilities from other classes. Everything else only gets 1. And eventually the stats get nuts. But on a Fiesta, that probably won't happen. You won't be playing that long. They're just good. I don't know. You might master 1 or 2 classes. You might get them some decent stats. Even if you don't, just being able to hold anything, you can take Excalibur on them. You can take the Katana Marasme. I don't know how to say it. You can take the Katana and just, not many classes use katanas, so you don't normally get to use that and find out that you can use it out of your inventory to haste anyone. That's the thing they can do. Uh, basically any move you've learned where you need a specific item for any class, Freelancer can also do. Freelancer can use the Death Sickle from Berserker to choose the crystals. He can use Beastmaster's Whip against Garula, even though Beastmaster cannot do that because he's not there yet. And they'll learn 2 abilities from other classes. It's fine. They're good. I have just moved the screen, which was a mistake. Let me try and reorient this. Did I have the whole thing on the screen before, or was it just part? Well, we'll find out. Anyway, it's Geomancer. Geomancer's bad. Geomancer, I don't even. I have never played a run where I've had to rely on Geomancer. And I hope I never do, frankly, because he's not good. I definitely didn't have the whole screen on my screen before. Oh well. Geomancer's move, it depends on where you are in the game, what biome you're in. It picks from a random pool of, not random pool, but it picks from a pool of moves. It picks 1 at random. Most of them don't work on bosses. There's probably places in the game where like they're weirdly useful. I think there definitely are. There's a couple of boss fights where there just happens to be a move that kills the boss in the pool for the Geomancer, but it happens so rarely, and they're just bad the rest of the time. They don't. You don't want to have to rely on their ability. The stats are bad. They use bells are their unique thing. I think the last bell they get is supposed to be alright. They can attack from the back row, but they don't do much damage because the weird Santa people who don't do anything. They're bad. They are better than Dragoon, I'd argue, because sometimes their move is really useful, whereas Dragoon's move is never really useful. I don't know. Dragoon can hold a shield. It's up to you, whoever you prefer to throw your high potions at the end of the day, I guess. Here is Gladiator. I believe that's Gladiator. It's very fancy. Gladiator's not a wizard, but he's extremely good. Problem with Gladiator, he's one of the advanced classes. You have to do all of the tablets to get him, which you won't normally do in a run, and it takes forever. And you gotta do all the. You gotta go through like the cave with Leviathan in it. You gotta go through the one with the crater at the bottom of the ocean with all the zombies in. It's a nightmare. You gotta do Fort Tower. So it's gonna be ages before you get to use your gladiator. When you get him though, I don't even know actually. He might only be good. Okay, here's why we argue gladiator might be not a wizard. Um, Gladiator's ability, well, he has some he has a few abilities. I can't remember his first one, so we'll just pretend it doesn't exist. He learns an ability that lets him attack from the back row with anything and do normal damage. That's fine. You can give that to anyone. Um, you can give it to Berserker, and then your Berserker can hide in the back row. It's fine. The main thing he does is finisher. I mean, before that, he can equip heavy armor, he equips shields, he can equip a very wide variety of weapons. He can use bows for some reason, he can use all sorts. So he can use a lot of status effects on weapons as well, as a side effect of that. But he does come late enough in the game that you've probably passed all the areas those would have been very good. The main thing he does is elemental finishes. The finisher command has a chance to completely fail, a chance to just be a regular critical hit, and a chance to do 9,999 damage of whatever element the light warrior is of. I can't remember which ones they are. Faris is fire element in the lore, so Faris always does fire finishes. Lena's water, I believe, so she always does water finishes. There are potentially situations where you'll accidentally heal an enemy for 10,000 health, but otherwise, it's worth just rolling the dice on that because it's so good. And the higher gladiator ranks increase the chance you'll get the elemental finisher. Having said that, I am going to put him down to good, just because he takes fucking forever to train. He needs so many points to get his abilities. If you don't have a way to win the game with the team that you have, Dragoon will do it for you, but it will take some grinding. And if you have, for example, Black Mage, it won't be worth it. You'll just have a guy who can use all kinds of weapons, who can do good damage from the back row, while still having good health and good shields. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with him being there. And while we're on the subject of good characters who are melee attackers, Knight potentially goes to not a wizard tier. I'm not sure. Why is not a wizard tier? Why did we make this stupid tier? No, Knight's not a wizard. He's just Knight. Knight is very good. For classes that just have armor and do damage, the Knight is the best at having armor and doing damage. I mean, maybe not the best at having armor, but he does solid damage, tanks well. He can wear the heavy armor. He can use the shields. He can pass on the ability to use shields to other classes. Black Mage ain't got any other wizards on your team. Give him equip shields. Why not? What does he lose by having a shield? Nothing. He just gains survivability. Shields are really good in this game. They are flat physical evade chance. The Aegis shield, which you get one of or two if you to get an advanced class, can block. I think it blocks a third of physical attacks, but also a third of spells, which is crazy. And you should use that all the way through the game, even though Optimize will keep trying to take it off you. Warrior he's just good. He does it. He has an ability, double grip. Well, he can use knight swords, and it's the only class in the game that can, unless they have equipped swords, which is an ability you get from the knight. Knight swords are actually just really good. I think it's the late game knight swords I'm thinking of, and they're not great up to that point. But the late game knight swords are absolutely busted. They actually make physical damage good, which not a lot of things do in this game. Excalibur's crazy, Enhancer's crazy, Defender's crazy, and gives you extra block chance to go with your shield. For abilities, they'll always cover allies on critical health, which can be a really bad thing, because it means that your Black Mage is on low health. Enemy attacks Black Mage. Knight leaps in the way, takes the damage, but he takes what the Black Mage would have been hit for, not what he would have been hit for in his heavy armor. So he'll generally take a lot more damage doing that than he otherwise would have. So watch out for that. Try and keep him topped off if you can. They do get the guard ability though, which reduces physical damage that they take to 0. So in that situation, your guy hops over, protects your critical health Black Mage, takes 0 damage. That's a really good thing to do with them if you can work it out. It's a bit of a hassle to get going, but against physical threats, why not try it? Just have your knight sitting around guarding while everyone else hits the enemy, knowing that they'll not hit you back because knight will block it. You'll take 0 damage. They also learn double grip. I think in some versions of the game they always double grip. I've heard. I'm not sure if it were a lie. I heard in GBA, if you don't give them a shield, they are counted as double gripping their sword. I know in SNES that's definitely not the case. You have to put on the double grip ability, then it grays out your shield hand just to tell you that you can only use a sword, and then you're doing double damage with your melee attacks. But it lets him do double damage with his melee attacks if you need him to do damage and not just be a cool guy who has the shield. Oh, when he hops over, by the way, he can still use his shield to block attacks, even if he's not guarding and will get hit for a lot of damage if he doesn't block them. So it's a good idea to give him a good shield. Knight's one of the better good classes. He's real solid. You shouldn't be. When he comes up, you're like, it's not a wizard, is it? But you know what? They don't all need to be wizards. This is a mime. I'm tempted to put him in bad because I hate him. Sometimes mime is good. We're putting him good. I do realize that all the classes are just in good tier. There's some coming up that aren't in good tier. Don't worry about it. I'm looking at the thing at the bottom. I'm seeing a lot of classes that aren't just good. Mime. So the problem with Mime is half the time he's useless and half the time he's very good. Mime makes you go through Fog Tower, and he makes you go to the bottom of the ocean, and then you have to do the thing with the stupid clown who lives in the sea, where you just put the controller down and walk away for a few minutes. Not too many minutes, or you'll drown. And then you get Mime. Mime is the same as Freelancer, except he can't use all the gear in the game. He can only use the bad gear. He gets to have 2 abilities, but it takes off attack. No, he can completely replace all the abilities on his list, I think. I know he takes off. You can take off item and just give him something else. So he can end up with all kinds of abilities, and he does gain stats from classes you've mastered, the same as Freelancer. There's probably a way to make it so Mime is, if at the end of the game you've mastered everything, Mime's maybe the best class. On a Fiesta, he's a real hassle. Takes ages to get him, and a lot of the time he can't do anything. Mime's thing is when you use the Mime ability, he uses the last ability one of your team used. So your Black Mage casts a big spell, you mime a big spell. It costs 0 MP for mime. He just gets to do a big spell. That's really handy, and he can be really good. Alternatively, you have a team that's Berserker, Dragoon, Geomancer, and you can mime Geomancy or attack. You can probably mime jump. He's spry. And even if you can mime your Black Mage, I don't think he can have rods, so he's not going to be doing as good damage. Not being able to equip things like a Freelancer can really makes mime a lot worse, and I just don't think he's that good in any situation. Maybe there's situations, but I don't think he's generally that good. Sometimes you may be excited to see him, and then you realize later on, like, oh, actually, this doesn't really do a whole lot. He's kind of a dead character. Tempted to put him in bad now. There's been a lot of mime hate there, but being able to cast big spells for free is fine. He's at the back of good. We'll kind of arrange these. Where's Freelancer? Does Freelancer go behind or in front of Beastmaster? Put him behind because Beastmaster's an actual class. Gladiator definitely goes ahead of him. Yeah, put Gladiator at the top of good. Just elemental finisher, man. It's very unreliable, but squad 9 damage. Here's Monk. People seem to think this is one of the main pieces of misinformation that you'll get. This is one of the real fake news you get looking at Final Fantasy V stuff. People think Monk is good for some reason. Monk is not only not good, he's Berserker tier. I don't know why people think Monk's good. When I first played the game as a kid, I didn't think Monk was good. when I came back to it, I quickly realized Monk wasn't good. He's very obviously not good. There's not a lot good about him. Strong points of Monk. He has a very strong early game. His punches do a lot of damage in the extreme early game. For a lot of World 1, he deals very adequate damage. He can't wear good armor. He does have the highest health in the game, but that's kind of undermined by the fact that he can't wear good armor. He can only wear light armor, which is generally crap. He also can't hold weapons, and he can't hold shields. He can't hold anything. Monk's hands do not work. His abilities are Chakra, which is a garbage heal that you shouldn't ever use. Kick, which is a very weak AoE attack you shouldn't ever use. And Focus, which means he attacks half as often for twice as much damage. When you factor in the enemy's defense, that does mean you're doing slightly more damage, but slightly more than basic Monk damage is still basically nothing. The problem with Monk is there's no ability you can give him that. I mean, there's a couple of abilities in the game he can still use, alright? Like he can sing songs if you've got bard. And that's a very good use of Monk, just have him be a second bard. But there's not a lot of ways he can just be a second one of a class and still be as good as that class is at doing its thing. Because he can't hold anything in his hands. Monk has a unique item. Well, I mean, okay. If you level up really, really, really ridiculously high, Monk does eventually come back online. His damage scales up a lot based on his level. And if you can boost his level with a chemist or with bard for a very long time, he eventually will be doing a lot of damage. He also gets a unique item called the Kaiser Knuckle, which increases his damage a lot but takes up one of his slots. And it's like the Kaiser Knuckle's basically required to make a monk do endgame damage, but also he can't wear Hermes sandals because he's wearing gloves. So now, instead of having 5 inventory slots, he has 3 that he can't use and 2 that he can only use for the worst possible items from that slot. There's just not a lot Monk can do. He's very bad. If you put like black magic on him, he still can't do a lot of damage with it because he can't hold staffs. He can't hold anything. You can't put blue magic on him and have him do arrow because he can't hold knives. I don't know why that were the example. He can do maths fine. But I don't know. I just hate Monk. I think he's really bad. By the end game, he's just throwing potions at people and being one shot by physical attacks, even though he's got the highest health in the game. He does. One of his abilities gives extra max HP to things, which is fine to put on another class, but if you've got anything better, you won't pay attention to it. Oh, Black Mage can also increase people's maximum MP, which is better than HP, but not great. Monkey's very bad. He's actually in Berserker tier. There are more situations where Berserker is like notably good than there are where Monk is notably good. There's also more situations where Berserker is an actual liability than any other class because there's none for any other class. But Monk never stands out. He doesn't do anything other classes can. He can't do other classes things as well as they can. He's just very bad. It's a really bad class. All the people saying that he's good are just wrong. Please debate me on Skype. I will fight you in the marketplace of ideas, and I will win. And you'll be destroyed. This is Mystic Knight. He's not a wizard, but he is incredible. Mystic Knight. So he uses swords, he uses shields. I don't think he gets heavy armor. Either does or doesn't. I can't remember. Doesn't matter. The armor's not as good as the shield. Shield is always the main thing. Mystic Knight can enchant his sword, which takes a turn, and he can put a variety of buffs on it. Generally uses black magic to do this, so if you buy like the fire spell, you can enchant your swords with fire. If you buy Firaga, you can enchant your swords with more fire. Mystic Knight at the start of the game, I mean, he gives you a free what's his name, Liquid Fire, which is Liquid Fire is one of the main sticking points for people early game, and it's pretty free with Mystic Knight. Guess he can use Blizzard Sword to just cut through Liquid Flame. It's very easy for him. But at the start of the game, he's kind of only good if the enemy's got an elemental weakness. And he's just like a slightly worse knight otherwise, who can't do any of the defensive stuff. But later on, once you get to World 2, this dude learns Breakblade, which is a 100% chance petrification ability. He uses it on his sword, and then every turn he can petrify one enemy. There are so many things in this game that aren't immune to petrify. Neo X Death, his most powerful. The last fight with Neo X Death, there's 4 areas. He has like 4 chunks you can stab him in, and they all do different moves. The strongest one of those can be petrified, so you just free kill him in one hit. And that's just allowed for the whole game. It don't even cost much MP. You don't even have to use it once for every time you want to do it. You can just use it once at the start of the fight, and then one by one petrify every enemy. It can petrify so many bosses. It can do. It's nuts. And then he gets Drain Sword, which is a regular melee attack that heals him for the damage he does. He's going to be hitting like 1,000 damage and have about 1,000 max health. So he's just going to be fully healing whenever he stabs someone. And then he can learn Flare Sword. You really want to do Fog Tower with this guy, but dude can use Flare Sword to just do all of the damage instead of only some of the damage. He's so good. He's so good. He's not quite a wizard. He might even be a wizard. You could argue he's a wizard. I wouldn't. I wouldn't argue that. I'd argue this. I wouldn't argue that. Maybe he's a wizard. The problem is the long stretch of the game where he really doesn't stand out. World 1's quite long. Mystic Knight doesn't do great in World 1. In fact, by the end, he can be kind of falling off in terms of damage, in terms of utility, even. You don't have a good time against X-Death at the end of World 2. There's a lot of key places where Mystic Knight is weaker than you remember. I'd argue. It's weaker than you remember. There's just certain areas where he doesn't stand out, which you'll forget about when you see him just petrify a boss in one hit, or flare blade someone for like 4,000 damage. This is Ninja. I think Ninja's also not a wizard. Ninja's not a wizard. Yeah, I think Ninja's not a wizard. Ninjas are very fast. They have great stats are fine. I'm not too interested in stats unless they're being boosted to 99 by a bad. But Ninja, so they can use scrolls, which are bad-ish unless you give them a magic ability, and then they're really good. You can just wipe an entire group of enemies with a scroll of the corresponding element that they're weak to, and it's great. They can. What's the other one? They can throw weapons, can't they? Yeah, they're the ones that throw weapons. So if you got a weapon lying around you're not using anymore, you can just throw it at an enemy and it'll probably do quite a lot of damage. It's not really what you bring them for. Ninjas can flee from combat. Guaranteed. That might be a thief. No, it's ninjas. No, it's a smoke bomb ability. Yeah, they can just flee 100% chance. That's really handy. Um, they can also hold 2 weapons, which means they attack twice, and that's like gross. You can I don't know. They're just really good. You can do so much stuff with giving them 2 weapons. They can also use all the unique thief weapons, which means you can give them a twin lance and something else, and then they'll hit 3 times when you attack. They do a lot of damage. I don't know. Maybe they're not. Maybe they only belong in good. But I like ninjas a lot, and I'm leaving him in not a wizard. Being able to run 100% chance is so good in a lot of places. You'll be running a lot throughout the game. Especially and in some situations there's just enemies that are such a pain in the ass to run away from. I might be remembering Ninja as being better than he is just because I'm so happy every time I use Flee to escape from a shield dragon or a behemoth in the void. It just makes me so happy when I do it. I'm like, if I had any other classes, that would have been a total pain in the ass. And his damage is great. Yeah, Ninja's good. I wish you could hold a shield, but then he won't be able to hold 2 weapons, so swings and roundabouts. Oracle is bad. Oracle's probably good if you like Stephen fucking Hawkins. But you have to look at so many guides to make Oracle work. Who made this? Why did they make him like that? Oracle's ability does different stuff depending on how much health he's on and like the actual independent digits of his HP and the phases of the moon. And I don't use Oracle. It's not worth using him. Don't play the advanced classes. You might get Oracle, and then you'll just be sad. I'm putting him here. It's worse than Geomancer. Yeah, I hear Oracle. His abilities can be really good in perfect situations, but I just hate him. I just don't use Oracle. It's too much of a pain in the ass. I'll read a guide about all the fucking blue magic in the game and how to perfectly do that. I won't. I cannot tolerate Oracle. This is Ranger. Ranger's good. Good is still a very long tier. Maybe we should. That just means most of the classes do the thing they're supposed to. So Ranger's kind of lackluster. He equips bows. He's the only class in the game other than Gladiator who can do that. Bows, there's a few good status effects in there. I can't remember if any of them are really good. There's a legendary bow in there. I can't remember if it's good. We'll assume they're fine. He can stand in the back row and do full damage. He can't wear good armor. He can't carry shield. Ranger, his main ability is he summons animals, which is, depending on what level he is, you get a random table of animals. The weakest one literally does nothing. Stronger ones, like some of them do like status effects and they're really garbage, or like do percentage based damage, so it doesn't hit bosses and is therefore kind of pants. Doesn't hit heavy things, so it's bad. The only one you really care about is Nightingale, which when he's, I think, like level 20 to level 30, there's a really good chance that when he uses animals, you'll get Nightingale, and you'll be able to. It's a very strong heal on your whole team. Is it level 20? No, it's level 10 to 20 or something. I can't remember. No, it's somewhere around level 20. Let's just say somewhere around level 20. It's a good spot where for a while he has a inconsistent but reasonable full party heal. That's pretty good. Other than that, though, you're only using Ranger. His job's going to be to learn 4 times attack. He has a move that lets him attack 4 times in one turn. He can just do that. You can put that on a ninja and have him attack 12 times in a turn with a twin lance. That's allowed. But mostly the Ranger learns that. The attacks do half damage, but because of an error, I believe, in the coding, at least on the Game Boy Advance version, the attacks ignore enemy armor and also ignore the hit check, so they always hit, even if he's blind. It's a lot of damage, and any other class is better with it than he is. So just having a lot of people learn 4 times attack, not any class obviously, but Ninja is a lot better with it. Knight's better with it. You know, you can spread it around. It's a really good thing to have. It doesn't do that to be all the way down there. Yeah, that's a good spot for Ranger. Beastmaster should probably be higher up, but he's a lot of hassle. He's not as much hassle as some people, but he's a fair bit of hassle. This is Red Mage. So Red Mage, people say he's absolute cheeks and deserves to be hero here, but Red Mage can smash rods, so he will never be bad. Red Mage also has a very strong start. Red Mage's thing is he learns. Well, yes, garbage stats is his first thing. He can equip swords, but not. Does he equip shields? He can't equip good armor. I think he can have shields, but I'm probably wrong. And his thing is he can learn black and white magic, but he only learns it up to level 3. So he's missing very important key spells from both black and white magic. He can't learn shell. He can't learn Aga spells. It's a really awful place for him to stop. I think there's a balance mod thing that just gives him level 4, and he's suddenly really good. But he only learns to level 3 normally. He does. His last ability is dual cast, which lets him cast 2 spells in one round. Which on Red Mage is still kind of bad. He can cast 2 Thundara spells and do less damage than a Black Mage doing 1 Thundaga spell. But if you transfer that to Black Mage, then he can do 2 Thundaga spells in a round, and now he's even better. The thing about it is, it's 999 ABP to get that skill. You're probably not gonna get that. It's probably too much. Just have him throw rods for the whole game. He can just stand in the back row, break rods over his knee every turn, and he has slightly better stats than Freelancer, so he goes slightly above Freelancer. Rods, he has such a strong World 1 that you've got to give him props for that. He falls off in World 2, and by the end of the game, he's pretty bad. You are just breaking rods with him every turn, which is fine, but you know, you know, he's not a wizard. Anyway, Samurai, he's not a wizard. However, Samurai, he's very broken. Samurais have heavy armor. They have shields. They are the only class in the game that can use katanas, which are decent weapons with high critical hit rates. Most weapons in the game, by the way, can't crit. I believe. I think. Yeah, I think axes have a really low crit chance, and then samurais have katanas, which have a really good hit chance, and monk fists can also crit, but no one else's fists. Unless they have the monk fist ability, which is don't put that on. You've got better options. People like to. We have passed monk, and I shouldn't be talking about. But people say monk is good because you can learn bare hand, which is your punches deal as much damage as monks, and you can put it on your black mage, and now wow, your black mage can do monk punches if he wants to waste his turn. Instead of using Firaga, he can use punch. What a good synergy. Sorry, no. Anyway, we're talking about good classes. So samurais just do a lot of damage, have good health, have good armor. The main thing about them is they also have a completely broken ability in Zenage, which is why he's not in good. He's in not a wizard. Zenage lets them throw money at enemies to kill them. It does damage. It depends on your level, how much damage it does, and also how much money you use. I think it's I can't remember the maths, but it scales off level. So if you can boost his level, it gets even better. It even if you can't though, it just does such huge damage to all enemies. He will very quickly run you out of money. So you don't want to be using it against like regular enemies, but there's only so many things in the game you can buy, and I mean, money's quite easy to grind in a fairly reasonable amount of time doing the art grind. And if you do it for a little while, Samurai will destroy everyone by just pelting them to death with coins. And if you can boost his level, it's even better. You can just hit quad 9s on all enemies at once by emptying your entire bank account. But still, he's really good. In the right conditions, he's completely broken. He's a good class. Here is Summoner. Summoner's a wizard. I'd say he's the worst wizard. Maybe Summoner might be the worst wizard. So Summoner is very similar to Black Mage, except all of his spells hit all the enemies at once. He can break rods, I think, which is yeah, he can break rods. So do that if you've got nothing better to do. Also, he has summon spells, which generally you have to go a little bit out of your way to get, but you don't have to buy with money, so you can save up for throwing it at Ned. Summoner has really serious peaks and then valleys in terms of his usefulness. So like right after he gets a new summon, it'll probably be really good for a little while, and then his damage will fall off, and then he'll find a new summon and it'll be really good again. He does have some utility summons that are just stellar though. Carbuncle casts Reflect on your entire team. That's niche, but really good. No other class can do that, except for Blue Mage, who's the broken tiers don't even think about them as like real classes. Think of them as myths that if you see them, you've won the game already. Summoner can also He gets Golem, which is crazy. It just blocks physical damage for a really long time. It just fully blocks all physical damage. I don't know if it's like a number of attacks or an amount of damage, or I've never worked out how it works. I just know it's incredibly good. um, he also, yeah, later in the game, he does get damage spells that will stack up all the way through that are viable endgame damage. Tends to use a lot of MP, even more than Black Mage. He tends to get through his MP. At the end of the game, you can get Leviathan and Bahamut if you really go out of your way. Don't even bother getting them. If you go back to the pirate cave from the beginning of the game, Faris will see Sildra. You'll learn the Sildra spell, which is not only very powerful but also boostable with an air knife, which is, anything can equip an air knife. Makes if you put that on summoner, Sildra will be hitting crazy damage. Does about as much as Bahamut for about half the MP cost, and it hits all enemies for the same damage. Black Mage spells, the damage is reduced when you multi-target. A summoner does not have that. Summoner always does full damage. The damage is a bit less, but it's real handy against like Neo X Death. You can burst every part down at the same time. I mean, obviously you want to get rid of the Almagest part first, but then after that you can, Thief. I have never had Thief in a run. In a Fiesta or like prepping for Fiesta run. Um, Thief is the worst start in the entire game. If you get Thief off your Wind Crystal, if Gilgabot decides to curse you with an early Thief, he's absolutely garbage. He makes the early game take a really long time. He hates Garula. Garula will ruin your life. You'll need to level up so much to beat Garula. You don't have a good time with Liquid Flame as well. If you've not got any classes by then, he's really hurting for damage at the start of the game. However, he does get the weird items, the Shurikens and Twin Lance. I don't even know what that. Twin Lance don't even have a picture in the inventory on either the Game Boy or SNES version, but he can use that. He has a lot of options for attacking from the back row for full damage. Oh, should have said. I think Samurai gets an ability that lets him act first at the beginning of fights, which is also really good. Only mentioning it now because I can't remember if that were on him or Thief. It's on him. Thief learns, like, he can make your character run around faster on the overworld. He can see hidden passages. You'll eventually remember where those are, but it's handy. The main thing Thief does is steal stuff, surprisingly. Final Fantasy V is one of those games where there's just really good steals on a lot of things. You can't get the best armor in the game without stealing it. Thief can steal that for you. Can steal fucking elixirs off some things, which is nuts. You can just have elixirs for free. He doesn't do anything great, and he can't hold shields, and he only has light armor. But he'll save you a lot of money. He'll generate you a lot of money. He can get you weapons and items that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get at points. He means if you forget to grind for reflect rings, you can still get them. He's really good, and he can just make your item grinds a lot faster anyway by just being around and being a thief. Yeah, Thief's good. I'm going to put him above Red Mage. This looks fine. Time Mage. He's a wizard. Time Mage. So, like, Time Mage learns Haste, and Haste is the best status effect in the game. But for most of the game, he just does Haste. I mean, he learns Stop as well, and like I said, you'd be surprised what's weak to Stop. I don't use Slow as much, but I'm not sure if that's just because I forget. Probably fine. But haste is huge. You want haste all the time. You want haste on as many people as possible. This guy gives you haste. You only need one Hermes sandals if you've got Time Mage in your team. You have him go first with Hermes sandals. On his first turn, you cast haste too, and then everyone goes fast. Uh, he can smash rods as well. Obviously, that's fine. He does wizard stuff. He does all the normal wizard stuff. He also learns float, which is useful for certain bosses and it lets you get over damage flaws without getting hurt. Someone else can. I think Geomancer lets you go over damage flaws without getting hurt. It's not a great ability in its own right, which is why Geomancer's not top tier. But damage, I mean, it's another little bit of utility he's got. When you get right to the end, he starts to get nuts spells. The thing about damage is you kind of want him to set his abilities, and then he's kind of stuck for stuff to do after that, until someone dies and needs haste put back on him. And he doesn't like get anything that can do damage until very late in the game. But when he does, it's decent damage. Is it Mia that you get from Fog Tower? No, that's Flare. He gets Mia somewhere. I'm not sure if that's too late, actually. I can't remember why that. I've just played a randomizer, where I had time mages just destroying everyone with meteors, and it's completely destroyed my memory for where things are supposed to come in the game, specifically relating to time mage and nothing else. So maybe meteor's too far out of the way to reasonably get. He gets Comet, which is random damage, and it's kind of bad. He also learns Quick, in Phantom Village, I think, which just lets you take 2 turns. You use Quick, time stops. Your time mage can take 2 turns. Here's the thing about it. Probably been fixed in the iOS version because they hit fun over there. But if someone has poison or regen or sap status effects, while time is stopped for the time mage, those status effects will keep happening. The easiest way in the game to beat Omega, probably the only, I think it's definitely the only way I've ever done it. Probably the same for a lot of people. You throw a bio rod at him, and then you cast Quick and just wait. Just leave the game open for like 2 hours. And then when you come back, Ovni will be dead. Because his health's constantly draining, even though time's stopped. You can also cast Regen on all your team, which is a spell Time Mage lands? Yeah, it is. And then stop time with Quick and just wait till everyone's healed up to full health before you go. So yeah, he's a bit nuts. It can do some stuff. He's not as good at he really wants there to be another mage around, so he can learn a spell that does damage. But he's still very good on his own. And if he only learned haste, he'd probably still be in no wizard tier at least, because haste is so good. And white mage, who is obviously a wizard. What do you say about white mage? So white mage is a really slow early game, but he cannot die because white mage is the only class in the game that specifically heals, and he does it incredibly well. White mage just doesn't die. There's not a lot you can do to convince him to. Like, he actually has a really good time in Ship Graveyard, but like Garula won't kill 4 white mages. The fight will go on forever, but the white mages will win eventually. You just can't stop them from healing themselves. He has a lot of MP. His heals are nuts. He can. It's so weird playing in Forge of Fiesta where there's like such a low chance you actually get white mage. He feels essential because he just like he don't do any damage, but that's not why you bring him. You bring him to make everyone around him immortal, and he does it. He can also learn life and life too, so he can revive and fully revive people without using your Phoenix Downs up. He can also equip the Sage's Staff and just revive people for free with that. Don't even use MP. That's World 3, but you know. He's a good candidate for the Kia Staff. I think he's the only one who can use staves, actually, so makes him an even better candidate. But yeah, he can use the Kia Staff to just cast free Kia 2s on people for a lot of the game. Or Kia Raz, if you prefer. He doesn't get a way to deal damage until the very end of the game. He gets Holy. Holy's very good at dealing damage. So for the final stretch, he's also a black mage. But what are we gonna say? Yeah, he learns Protect and Shell. Protect halves a character's the damage they take from physical attacks, and Shell halves the damage they take from magic attacks. And he can just use those whenever he wants, and they last forever unless the character gets knocked out or it gets dispelled. And that shouldn't be allowed. It can also cast Reflect on people. It doesn't last very long, but it's nice to have. I think that's my tier list. I think that's a pretty good list. You can make some arguments about this. Maybe this is too big. Maybe we should have condensed these into one tier. Maybe bad and Berserker kind of deserves his own tier, and I consider it like in an intrusion that Monk has to be here as well. This is Monk proving that he's just completely unlikable, just generally a bad guy. Just don't make your characters a monk. It's really easy, and you'll enjoy the game more not having a monk. Oh no, who's going to be throwing high potions to top off my character's health because they have literally nothing better to do? I mean, Dragoon can do that better because he has a shield. But anyway, that's the list. I rambled a lot. I'm probably not going to do. You know what? If you're having trouble with something specific in this game, shout me out. I will probably make a video about it when I get around to it because no one watches my videos, so I'm in a unique position where I can tailor my content towards specifically you. Um, and we can. I don't know. I want there to be more. This is probably really long because I just waited a lot. Holy shit! Did I actually talk for an hour about this? Okay. I wanted there to be more digestible content about Final Fantasy V that you could learn from, and it wouldn't teach you bad things. But I've talked for an hour and a quarter, so that's not happening today. Sorry about that. You know what? You can look through the video and see when I pick a thing up if you want to hear about it specifically. But anyway, if there's like a boss you're stuck on, or if you want me to do a tier list of bosses, that'd probably take a couple of hours. Just ask. It's fine. I'll do it. I will. Double dare me and I'll do it. You'll see. Anyway, I'm going to start recording. And I'm going to do it by bringing up the OBS window again. And it's going to be very embarrassing because I don't have a hotkey set up for stopping recording. So, goodbye, everyone. This is my tier list. Monk is terrible. Don't make your characters a monk.